Goeiedag. My name is Milly Vande Kieft. I am the one who helps at Tulip Time with the Dutch demos. The Dutch demos, we have some dresses and men's clothes too that we have sort of velcroed and we have modernized it to get people out of the audience to be our models, and they put it on over their clothes so it isn't any big problem, but it's really, really fun. And then we talk about the different costumes. And the one I'm wearing is from Gelderland, which is the largest province, but probably the least populated. It's a lot of woodlands. And the reason I chose it is because my mother was born in the Netherlands, and this is what her family would have worn in the early 1900s. In fact, I have an original hat that comes from there that's probably 120, 25 years old. And again, the great aunt told me I had to have my black cap because you could see the pattern. The one I have is on tulle and it's hand embroidered circles. This is called the new dress, not the old one. The one that my grandmother would have worn, I'm told, had a lot more red, and it was a very closed, small cap. So this one the family gave me, and so I've modeled it after that. And it's paisley here, and it would be white or beige. I chose white, but the one I have is beige up here, and then it was either blue or green tulle, and it's so faded I can't quite tell what it was, but that would indicate the area they were from. These were my grandmother's garnet beads. They are sentimental, they're not the real thing, but the pin I'm wearing is the one my mother found on the ship when she came in 1920, and no one claimed it, and somehow or other she ended up having it. So it's a cross, heart, and an anchor, and they are real garnets. The apron is again pleated or folds really more than pleats. I think what's interesting is at the bottom there is a brush-like trim, and at the end of tulip time it is about the only thing that is clean because it really does repel the soil. It's sort of like a broom. It is rather severe, and so it's black on black but highly decorated, but the same color. And so that's the reason I wear that. I'm holding what is a pocket that years ago they would have tied this around their waist, but it would be under their skirts and apron, and there would be slits in their skirt so that they could reach in and save their little money or whatever they needed for market in there. When the styles of the skirts became more slim, they didn't have room for that. So that's when purses came around. But you'll find this in English, in England, in lots of places. This wasn't typical Dutch. The other typical thing that really has to be orange. This is a soccer scarf, and it says Holland on it. And orange is the wonderful color for the Netherlands. Last week we would have had Koningsday, or this week I guess it was. And they are from, the royal family are from the House of Orange. So orange is exceptionally a beautiful color and a royal color with the red and white and blue flag. This year we are going to take you onto a virtual tour of all of the dresses that were worn probably late 1800s, early 1900s. The dress we're looking now is Volendam, which is only one little village in the whole country of the Netherlands. Everybody thinks it's Dutch, and it is, but we call it our souvenir doll because years ago there were many artists in this community, and they would paint the artists, the people of their community, This happened to go around the world, so everybody thought you had to be blue-eyed, blonde, and wear this. I'm 100% Dutch, and I do not have blue eyes, or did I ever have blonde hair. So this went around the world, and people had Dutch mania. We have Dutch cleanser, we had Dutch white paint, all of this, and they always featured this particular costume. So this was the hat that they would have worn, and we call it a ringed hat. Early on, this would have been more droopy, not quite as attractive. You'll notice the blue scarf that would have been knitted in 3 parts and then taken apart after it would wear away on your neck, and you'd undo it, put it back together again, and have another go around. The gal over here is in mourning because her flowers are blue or purple. She is in a happy state, and this is the one we usually see. So therefore we see the coral necklace, or we see the jet black, also indicating mourning. This was hand embroidered, and it was designed by whoever wanted a part of it. This is a close-up of it if you need to look at that. Okay? So this is our typical, quote, Dutch. This is from the province of Friesland. And Friesland is a dairy province, and there were many wealthy families there. And so you'll see a lot of lace. You will see a chatelaine hanging. You will see this beautiful headband for an interesting suntan, I would guess. Their orizer, we'll talk about that later, I think, with others, but their orizer is very unique to the Netherlands, and it kept the lace hats from blowing off. Can we use you? Because you were also from the province of Friesland. This is Cindy wearing the dress from Gelderland. It is one village. At one time, way back when, there was a study done, and there were over 250 different costumes being worn in that little country. So there were many, many, many of them, and this is one from just that village. And here too were many, many artists. And these people were merchants many times, and they would go to France and the East Indies, and they'd come back with these beautiful chintz fabrics. The one that Cindy is wearing, she has this beautiful coat, and it's in blue, which indicates that she is a widow. If she were not a widow, she would have it in bright reds, lots of reds. And she would also, depending if she was married or not, depending on whether she had her scarf tucked into the side of her heart or the other side. So she would be available if it would be on the other side. And it's a beautiful plaid skirt. In the other one, it would be a red plaid. Red is a super important color in the Netherlands. It came from the madder plant, M-A-D-D-E-R, and that dye gave this brilliant red. And it was reputed to keep away gout and rheumatism. So many times they would wear red underskirts as well. The hat of Gelderland is most interesting. This is really what we call a sanddoek or a sun hat. And it would keep out the sun. It's kind of nice. But the top, maybe if she even bends down a little bit, you can see it's sort of like a pillbox. And depending on the angle, sometimes that would, and I don't know the real details of that one, but one would indicate whether you were married or marriageable age or not. So, we have to say marriageable age because the Tulip Queen has worn it. And I think that's technically the way it should be. So, but it's so interesting, the folds that they have in there. And it's one piece of fabric, as I understand it, and it's a matter of folds. And so many of these are so unique in the way they're put together.
Okay.
So this is Bunschoten, Spakenburg, twin cities that many times it would have been just Spakenburg, but it's in the province of Utrecht, where the city of Utrecht is also. So this is just one little village, and these, I call them shoulder boards, became wider and wider as the time went along, and the red and white would have been a complete bodice probably, and again that red color. And this is very stiff, and many people here will send that to the Netherlands to have it stiffened with potato starch. And they have a special way of doing it. And you'll notice even bands that hold that shoulder board goes around their waist. You'll notice lots of pleats, folds, and many of the dresses, because they did not have the big closets like we have today, and so they, when they were through wearing them, would fold them up and put them in their drawers. The hats are most interesting. These, I think, are factory made, but they would have been crocheted by the women. And you always wear a black undercap because it, as a great aunt told me, it keeps your lace hat clean. But also, look what happens when you remove it, you lose the design of the hat. And so women would want to sit in the back of the church so no one would copy the pattern of their cap. Also from a small island of Axel, which is in the province of Zeeland, and it's beautifully hand embroidered with lots and lots of beading, and it's just most elegant. Again, you'll notice we almost called them wings. Sometimes they came almost straight up. And we always think of our dear friend Phyllis Zylstra, who was one of the masters of creating these dresses for us in Pella, that she had the most beautiful one. The lace hat probably would have come in many pieces, and then the little spiros would have been part of the oorreizer, or a cask that they would have worn. All right, this is also from a small village in the Netherlands, in North Holland, again with the very first one of Volendam. They're sort of neighbors. This is Marken. And we think of those two as probably the most authentic of Dutch, but they are just a portion of them. So you'll see again a lot of red. The blouse we just call sleeves, and they're usually red and white stripes, solid red. Sometimes they have a bit of yellow in them. The square that she's wearing over the bodice indicates that she's of marriageable age or married, because when she was a youngster, she would have had this beautiful vest worn, and she would, as a little girl, she would wear it backwards because mother would fasten it for her. When she became more independent, she would be able to turn it around like this and be able to dress herself. These were probably whalebone inserts, so this would have been probably like a girdle in some ways, but it would indicate all kinds of prosperity, fertility, and so forth, and again, the beautiful red colors. Now, once she was of marriageable age or married, I think it's just married, she would cover this beautiful vest with a sort of a bolero. You see the bit of red there with that little square piece. To me, it always looked like they went in their scrap box and got out the most colorful item to wear. Their scarf is like Volendam, except this one is red. And this one was made as one, but it would have come in 3 separate pieces, and lots of red on that. And it would have been worn in the winter time. For dress, both of those probably would have had just sort of a white handkerchief kind of tucked in there. The hat would have come in, for an adult, 12 separate pieces. For the little ones, it would be probably 7. Today, we make it all one. This is an authentic one. And I don't know if you can see it closely, but you'll notice some pins because this would be fitted to their head at the beginning of the week, all these pieces separate and pinned and then not stitched together. So be easy to work it out. And it does have seven pieces. I figured it out. This is an antique scarf. Every piece would have initials on it. And there are the initials. And this would have been the back. So you'd wear it around like this. And the beautiful beading. I'm too fast, I'm sorry. And it's just very, very interesting how stiff this is. It's almost as if it has cardboard in it. I don't know if it does, but probably not. And again, you'll see the red trim, the folds, and just a most interesting, colorful dress. From the province of Flevoland, our newest province in the Netherlands. This is from a little island called Urk, because the new ones did not have any Dutch costumes, as we would call them costumes. So this would have been worn, and it's highly embroidered around the waistband and the striped apron. This would be a Sunday dress or go to meeting dress with a beautiful crop top or vest and highly embroidered. It's the only one I know of that has yellow lace around it. And it really would have come, again, had an oar riser, a metal piece that would come and actually poke into their cheeks. And you can imagine that would have created head sores. There's a little, you can see through the mirror, a little ring of black on the back. That means that she was of marriageable age or married. They would often wear what we would call like doorstops or sausages of fabric underneath the waist so that it would flare out. I don't need any help with that. But sometimes they wore as many as 7. I don't know if that's where the bustle came from. This couple are wearing from again, a village in Overijssel, which is on the far east side of the Netherlands, and it's what's called Staphorst. You might be able to still see some people wearing that, but very, very, very few. So she is wearing a beautiful headpiece with, again, the oar riser, a metal underneath it, with the lace, lots of fluting around the hat. The scarf is red, a particular pattern that they use. And then the bodice is what they call stipwork, or nail head painting. And this is the way it would look. And it is done with a nail dipped in paint and then onto the fabric. And if you come to Pella, you will often see items done with that. We have done this in Dutch day camp. I've done it with first graders. I've done it with adults, and it's extremely easy. This is the little cap that would have gone without the dress one. And this one is in blue and white, which indicates this is a morning cap. It's in blue and white. If it was a happy time, it would be the same colors as this little vest. This is an oar riser, or a cask, or ear irons. It translates different ways, but it would have been made of gold, silver, tin in some cases. Depending on your wealth, your fiance or your husband would give you one that was very large if he was very wealthy, very small if it was not. The little curly spirals here. In some places would indicate whether you were Catholic or Protestant, depending on how you wore them. But this one's stop-horsed. And if we go over here, we see the one from South Beveland, which is in Zeeland. And this is an actual one as well. Does that film very well? So you would put this down over your head. You'd first cover your hair completely. Then you'd put this on. And then there are little holes. I don't know if you can see that in there. And then you would insert the lace cap, or this in the lace cap, and then in this, and it would keep that lace cap from blowing off. Sounds pretty uncomfortable to me. And depending on how you wore it, would indicate whether you were Catholic or Protestant. This one, we know she is probably, originally was Catholic because it was more into an angular shape. Join us next year for Tulip Time and see all of us wearing them and enjoying them.